Hello and welcome back. So currently in the game we do have a lot of the Warzone maps, and of course each of these maps has their own effect, and of course we do have a lot of pain cage bosses, and of course each boss has their own weakness and resistance against a certain type. Now currently, as an example, I do have the lighting map and of course the ice map. Now I will show you several themes that you can use, and pretty much I'll show you my personal theme that I use mostly in these war zones. Now my current most powerful theme is pretty much this theme that you're currently looking at. This is Verity, the current most powerful elemental damage dealing character. This is Aliv, a powerful lighting damage support, and this is Aslif, a powerful healer, pretty much a multi-purpose character that you can use for a vast majority of stuff in the game. Now, if you don't have Verity, you can also use this character, or of course you can replace any other character with Lucia Dawn. It is also a very powerful elemental damage dealer. But currently, for this map, you do want to use lighting elemental damage dealers as Verity and pretty much as Aliv, and also Lucia Dawn will work really well for these maps. Now these maps will have enemies that will have weakness against lighting damage, and pretty much the other maps do have a similar weakness in terms of pretty much every map will have their own elemental weakness, and of course you should be using that element if you want the highest possible score. Now of course, if you don't have powerful lighting damage dealers, you can use your other most powerful team. Pretty much you can use any team in the Warzone in the player, and pretty much if you play the game very good, then you will not have any problems even if you're using the other teams, besides the rank will be the same, and pretty much you don't have to worry about the rewards because lowest scoring player, so you don't have to worry about the premium currency. Third map is the one that you should be focusing most, because the third map is pretty much to how many floors you clear, and of course according to how much health you lose while you are clearing the map. And I find it very interesting that the game does value how much health you lose. If you heal yourself before the time runs out, then you are still going to get the highest possible points for the health, which is very interesting since this game does value healers a lot. And healers in this game are very good and very useful, and pretty much they are also very fun to use, which I think is very nice. Well, as you can see, I am clearing the floors just fine. Now they did change the bosses a little bit, and previously previously you wouldn't be fighting this boss, and you would have approximately 10 to 15 floors until you hit a boss, but they did change that, so you usually will find a boss at the floor number 8. Now, of course, the bonus from these maps is also very interesting, and of course is very nice. With the currency that you can get from these war zones, you can actually get 6-star memories for free, and it is very interesting and of course very important. Now this is Raven, the current and only ice elemental damage dealer, and for the ice map this character currently is the best character to be used on that map, because this character is a ice elemental damage dealer. But since I currently don't have the character, I'll show you a couple of alternatives that you can use for this map if you don't have this character. If you don't have this character, you don't have to worry. I'll show you a couple other teams that I do use for the ice map, and well, I'll show you the performance and of course a couple of my teams that I use. And well, let's start with the first map. Now, of course, the first two maps, like I said before, aren't that important. They're pretty much just there to warm up, I guess. And they will have 10,000 and 20,000 points cap each. And of course, they are easier compared to the rest. But the third map is going to be very interesting, and of course, the third map will be the most important one. Now, having a high rank in Warzone isn't that important, since if you're aiming for the premium currency, you just need to clear the stage in order to get your reward. But if you want to compete in the ranks, then it is recommended that you use the recommended and of course the correct types for each of these maps. But of course, it is not necessary. Now, the rewards that you get from the Warzone in terms of the reward that you can get to use it for the free memories, it is nice, but at the same time you have other options to get memories. You can pretty much farm the memories from the farming stages, and you can get them easily there just fine. And of course, you can also salvage them and pretty much get your desired memory if you are in a hurry to get a specific memory for a specific character. But of course, you still will get a bonus from retaining or advancing in the Warzone ranks, and you can actually also progress through the ranks without using the correct characters in the recommended stage. And you can get that by having a very powerful primary team. Now, my current primary and my current most powerful team is my lighting team that I am currently using, and in a lot of instances I do use these characters for the vast majority of Warzones because they are just so good and pretty much they work perfectly fine. And I am pretty much in the second highest or third highest Warzone in the game here, so I am pretty much high ranked, and of course my level is also very high, so I'm pretty much competing with the high ranked players, and I am retaining just fine without much of a problem. So you can retain and you can progress without having the specific characters for the specific stage, which is very interesting. And of course it does make the game a lot more free to play, and of course a lot more fun, since you are not going to be dependent on specific characters here, because you can just use your primary team for all of these stages and you are still going to do perfectly fine, and of course you are still going to progress through the ranks. Now, of course, using the right characters for the right map is definitely going to make the fight easier, but overall the score in the end will depend on player skill level and of course on how you play. The better you play, the higher the score, which is interesting. And of course, I do like skilled gameplay. I actually enjoy playing Warzone in this game. And of course, you should always, if you're not satisfied with the score, you can always retry, and you can always try to get a better score with the retries, since pretty much you are not limited. You can do unlimited retries here, and pretty much it is also very fun to play. So retrying this is actually one of the ways to practice the game. I do that sometimes. When I get bored from the other bosses, I do play Warzone a lot until I get a perfect run, and that way I do increase my skill level in the game, which is how games work. Well, that was a decent score. I did score higher previously. I have no idea how. Sometimes I just play better than other times, but that's also that also depends from situation to situation. Now, that was my primary team, and of course you can clear this with the physical team as well, since it is a elemental stage. You can use physical teams for this. Now, keep in mind, my physical team does not have that many physical support characters that can support Alpha's DPS, so My physical team is pretty much on the second place in terms of the overall power. My lighting team is currently the most powerful one, and the physical team is my second most powerful one. And so far, Alpha is doing a pretty good job. Recently, I did get her primary weapon. I do have her 6-star weapon now, and I have to say, her 6-star weapon is absolutely amazing, and it does work really well. And I actually did get it on time this time around, so that's good. Now I can focus on other weapons in the game. And of course, in the end, I will have to focus on the vast majority of weapons in the game in order to pretty much complete all of these characters. Nice, well, let's see the ultimate work. I am on 1000 combo. Pretty easy to play this character, I have to say. Once you get used to the enemies, it all becomes very easy. Now I have to say, I do feel a slight change in the enemy attack pattern. They seem to be a lot faster now than they were before, and I think that they did patch them. So far, I have to say this is indeed very fun to play, and it is challenging, of course. Or it might be that I have just increased my rank in the Warzone, and I am just facing more powerful enemies. That could also be the case. Well, that was a nice score. Now on to Pain Cage. Now here in the Pain Cage, each of these bosses has their own, like I said, weaknesses, and of course they have resistances. For example, this boss has resistance against ice damage and has weakness against fire damage. Huaxu pretty much has a ice damage weakness and a physical damage resistance. And this is where things get a little bit more serious in the game. In Warzone, you can have infinite retries, and you can pretty much use all characters you like, and you can make any team you want. But here in Pain Cage, you do have to play a little bit more serious, because here you will have 5 tries per week per each of these characters. And of course, you have 5 stages of difficulty in Pain Cage. The easiest, the first 3 ones are the easiest, and the 4th and the 5th can be difficult. And here you will have to follow the strengths and weaknesses of the bosses, and you should take advantage of the boss's weakness in order to kill the boss faster, because here you can get character fragments. It can make you rank up your characters a lot faster, which is going to make your characters a lot more powerful, and of course it will increase your overall ranks in game by a big amount. And for example, since I don't have a ice elemental, I'm using my lighting team. Pretty much, if you don't have the corresponding type on the boss, you can use pretty much the neutral ones, since they will be still doing a good job and you can still get a very decent score. But if you're aiming for the highest possible score, you will have to use the corresponding character. But of course, it is also not necessary, since in the end, it all depends on the skill level of the player. The better you play, the better the score will be. Now, the 5th stage, and pretty much the 5th difficulty of the boss, is the most important one, since it will offer you the highest possible reward, and of course the highest possible score. And I do recommend that you use your weaker units for the first 3 difficulties, and then use your medium or pretty much use your primary team on the 4th, and of course use your primary team on the 5th difficulty of the boss. And pretty much that's what I am doing right now. I am pretty much saving up my most powerful characters for the 4th and 5th difficulty of the boss, since that way I can get a lot of points, and that way I can actually get high up in the leaderboard. I definitely do recommend that you try to get the highest possible score here, because in the end it will pay off, since you will get a lot more character fragments and you will increase your character rank. And of course, with that you will be unlocking new skills, and with that you're going to get more combat power, which will make fighting in this game easier. But of course, keep in mind The one and only most important thing in this game is the skill level. And without the skill level of the player, I think the fight, even with the high-powered equipment, is going to be difficult. Well, this boss is slowly going down. Of course, I am using Vera because Vera is pretty much currently one of my favorite characters in the game, and overall, she's very fun to play. And this boss does have weakness against her elemental damage, so that was a very smooth and very interesting fight, I have to say. Well then, I think this will be, yeah, this is pretty much it for this part 1. I hope that this was helpful, I hope that you enjoyed, and well, in the next part, it depends on what Warzone I'll get, but I'll pretty much cover all Warzones since I do think it is very important to give you the best possible recommendations for the teams. Well, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next time.
指揮官指揮官指揮官ずっと呼ばれたかったんでしょこうやって